Hey guys, it's Dean. Welcome to Manful Yoga. In this video, we are going to be using some mobility tools to provide a restorative hip stretch session. So we're going to be using some mobility tools, particularly the Hypersphere and the Hyperice foam roller to help to warm up the muscle, to help to release some muscle knots. And then we're going to do a deep stretch for the hip muscles to help wind down. This is going to help you recover more quickly in your lower body. It's going to reduce the tension in your knees, reduce tension in your lower back, and help you get back to your workout sooner. It's also going to be a great nighttime routine. So you can do this after you've had dinner, when you're winding down, and you want to get better sleep. So let's do this. We're going to start with the roller, and if you don't have a Hyperice foam roller, you can get them at hyperice.com. Also, you can also use a normal foam roller that doesn't vibrate, but these are really effective. I'm a huge fan of these, so that's why I'm using this. And then the other tool is the Hypersphere. This is also made by Hyperice. It's a foam rolling, it's a vibrating ball. So the vibration basically just helps to break up muscle tissue easier and more quickly. So it helps you minimize the time you need to spend on your recovery workouts. All right, so let's get started. We're going to start just by kind of rolling the tops of your thighs, working into your quadriceps, getting the outer thighs, and then also working to the inner thighs and the glutes. So it's all focused on the hips, all focused on the thighs. So I'm going to start at just above my knee and just very slowly rolling all the way to my hip. Now I'm keeping my left leg totally relaxed here. I'm not going to shy away from the tension. I'm going to sink into the tension, which might seem, a little weird at first, or pretty counterintuitive, or your body will want to do the opposite of sinking into it and will want to shy away from it. So you want to sink into the discomfort, and that's going to help you release that muscle tension. So just slowly rolling back, and even if you have just a normal foam roller, slower is better as opposed to moving quickly up and down. You're going to get all the way to the top of your hip, and if you want, when you're at the top of your hip, you can kind of noodle around up there, so you can kind of maybe roll to the outside, roll to the inside, just kind of working into your hip in a different way. So we're now at the top of the hip, we're kind of working on the hip flexor, we're working on the quadricep, we're working a little bit on the inner thigh if you can roll to the inside. We're also getting the tensor fascia lata, so we're getting a little bit of the outer hip as well. And then let's roll back to the top. Nice and slow. All the way just above the knee. All right, and then we're going to roll again, and this time I want you to find the point on your thigh that has the most tension. Okay, so keep the left leg really relaxed, just let it sink down. And when you find the point that you don't want to stay on, we're just going to stay on that. And then I'm going to have you bend your heel in toward your butt. So we're going to pin and extend that muscle. So squeezing your heel in toward your butt, getting a deeper stretch through the quadricep, and then extending back out and keeping your body relaxed this whole time. Again, we don't want to tense up. We don't want to work. We don't want to fight this. We want to let that opening happen. So again, just kind of bending, slowly bending the leg, kind of working into your quadriceps. And notice how slowly I'm moving here. So very easy, slow movements, nothing quick. You can also play around with rolling toward the inside and rolling toward the outside. Just find whatever spot is tense and go to work on it. All right, and now we're going to start working on the outside of the hip. So working on the lateral quadricep head. So we're going to turn a little bit, not so that we're facing all the way to the outside, but kind of halfway between the outside and facing forward. So right in the middle. And then again, kind of rolling very slowly My head is shaking. Rolling very slowly. We want to try and find that point where there's a lot of tension, where it feels like it's an angry spot, and just kind of relax onto that. So I found it, and that's why I'm kind of staying there. And again, I'm working on the outside of my thigh, kind of just below the hip, and I can go almost all the way down to the knee here as well. Slowly, slowly, slowly. And again, releasing into it. So make sure you're not tensing up your left leg. Use your exhales to help you relax. And again, really slowly moving, trying to find that point where you do have that muscle tension and relaxing onto it. Deep exhales. And just slowly moving. And this is really kind of an exploratory process, right? So you're trying to learn where in your body, where in your thighs right now are you holding on to tension, or where are the muscle knots located? And you're trying to slowly release them. And you're not going to release the muscle knots by gritting your teeth. It's going to happen by relaxing. It's releasing tension. All right, that's enough there. We're going to go to the inner thigh now. So for this, you're going to bring the roller up about 45 degrees, and you're going to kind of straddle the roller with your inner thigh. So we're working on the inner thigh. Slowly rolling kind of toward just the inside of the knee, working on the vastus medialis obliques, right here, that inner, the quadricep just above into the inside of your thigh, or your knee, excuse me. And then slowly rolling over. And we can kind of go all the way to the groin here. So we're going to work a little into the adductors. And you can go all the way into the groin. And just try and keep that leg relaxed, slowly rolling onto it. We're going to be using the Hypersphere on this later on, so if you have a Hypersphere, then this is just a warm-up. If you don't have one, we're going to get a really nice release with the foam roller or the vibrating foam roller as well. So again, just slow, controlled movement, really easy. Keeping the leg relaxed. Deep breathing. Deep breathing is really important here. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. All right. And then we're going to switch legs. So we're going to go to the opposite thigh, quadricep again. And start from the bottom of the knee, or just above the knee, and roll up to the top of the thigh. I just turn the setting up, so it's going to be a little more intense. And again, I'm starting just above the knee. You can also kind of roll from side to side on this. So just working into that muscle on the top of your leg, keeping the thigh relaxed. And then we're going to slowly roll all the way to the top of the hip. Again, slowly, slowly, slowly. Deep breathing, helping to keep your bodies relaxed, keep the muscles relaxed. And right now, just going over the top of the thigh. And then once we get to the top, we can roll around a little bit. We can kind of roll toward the outside. We can roll toward the inside. And again, back toward the outside. And then coming back to the knee, slowly, just rolling back toward the knee, coming all the way. go back to a spot on the quadricep that you found kind of angry. So we want to go find an angry spot. So for me, it's kind of right in the middle. Let's see. There it is. So you're going to find that spot, and then we're going to bend and extend the knee. So I'm going to squeeze my heel in toward my butt. So I'm pinning down that tight muscle, and I'm extending it. So it's like I'm pressing down, pushing down one part, and holding it in place so I can stretch it. And that's what we're doing here. It's pinning and extending. Slowly bending the leg, letting it return, maybe choosing a slightly different spot. And then again, bending. Keeping relaxed. Even if it's uncomfortable, try to keep your face relaxed too. That will help. If you're gritting your teeth, if you're shrugging your shoulders, or you've got a pained expression on your face, that's going to make this more difficult. All right. And now we're going to move to the outside of the hip. So I'm going to turn just so you can see this. I think it's violent. I'm going to start kind of just a couple inches above the knee to the outside, and I'm facing slightly down. I'm not facing totally to the outside. We're going to roll slowly to just below the hip. And again, I want to find that spot that has a lot of tension. So I'm finding that area that is angry. I found it, so I'm going to stay on it. Relaxing onto it. And see, I'm barely moving the foam roller, okay? So you don't have to move that much to allow it to do its thing, especially if you've got the vibrating one. Again, deep breathing. Just sinking into the discomfort. One more little roll. Finding that spot and sinking into it, relaxing onto it, maybe not moving for a second or two. And I would spend a maximum of 5 minutes per muscle. So you don't want to spend too much time on it, even if you still feel muscle knots, because it's a lot of stress on the muscles. And if you spend too much time doing this on one muscle, it's going to be sore for a really long time. I've done this not with a foam roller, but I've done this with a knot out before, and I overdid it, and I was sore for a week. So you can definitely get too sore by doing this. All right, now we're going to go to the inner thigh. All right, so we're kind of straddling the foam roller, bringing the thigh up, and then rolling all the way to the groin, and then all the way to the knee, just inside the knee. And again, if you have the Hyperice, we're going to be doing something else, or the Hypersphere. We're going to be using that later on these muscles. If not, this is the last chance to get your inner thighs, or not your inner thighs, but your vastus medialis. Again, that quadricep just above and to the inside of your knee. Also called your VMO for short. And you can also kind of do a little bit of rotation on top of it. So we're working sideways into this. So turning the thigh to face down, turning the knee to face out, rolling over that muscle. All right, and then let's go ahead and move out of that. And we're gonna grab the Hypersphere now. And we're going to do the VMO again, this time with the Hypersphere. So this is a tool I really like using. It's a little more pinpointed than the foam roller, so we're going to work a little bit deeper into some other areas. So let's start with the left leg because we just did the right leg. Turn it on. And we're going to work on that area again. So just inner thigh, just inside the knee and above the knee. Kind of rolling around there. And this is going to be more intense. So you don't have to spend as long on this. Just nice and slow. Woo! So I'm working on the inner thigh for now. Keeping the face relaxed, deep breathing. All right, and then we're going to go to the top of the thigh. We're going to see if we can work a little bit deeper into the quadricep. So just right on top of the thigh. Slowly and relaxing into it. We're going to be able to get a little bit more pinpointed with the ball as opposed to the foam roller because it's smaller. We're going to avoid your IT band, so we don't want to roll directly to the outside. So we're still going right on top of the thigh, not to the outside. And then we're going to work a little to the inside upper thigh. And we want to get as close as we can to the groin, and that's going to help us release tension right at the source, the insertion point. And if you have a block, Edward, could you throw me a block? So if you have a block, you can also put the Hypersphere on top of a block. See if I can catch. No. So you're going to put the Hypersphere right on top of the block, and then you can put your thigh, on that elevated surface, and you're going to be able to work into your groin a little bit easier using that technique. So I'm kind of hiking my hip up a little bit higher, but again, now I can get directly almost inside my groin, and this is really going to help release that adductor, that inner thigh. Remember, relaxing into it. Woo! That is tight. That is angry. So try to find that angry point. Don't shy away from it. Just sink into it. Your muscles can take it. They're tougher than you think. All right, and that should be enough there. And then we're going to switch sides. We're going to go to the top of the thigh, other leg. And again, just kind of roll on top. Maybe getting up near the hip. So kind of right where the, right on the outer hip, just below the waist. That is the TFL. Again, that tensor fascia lata. That works with your glutes. So maybe we can relax onto that. This is kind of big for that. I would actually use a lacrosse before that, but you might be able to get some release. Especially since it's vibrating, that's going to help. So working on the outside of the hip. And then let's go back to the top of the thigh. We'll do that again later. Do that on the other side as well. So again, just rolling on the top of the thigh, keeping my weight relaxing onto the ball. I'm not shying away from it. And then I'm going to get inner thigh again. So again, I'm going to straddle the ball. Bring my knee up. a little bit, and then work from the kind of the mid-thigh down to just inside the knee, working on releasing tension in my VMO. Nice and slow. Again, relaxed. And then I'm going to go a little bit higher, right? So I'm going to grab that block, put the ball on top of the block. I'm going to go all the way to the inside of my groin and just relax my leg onto that ball, relaxing my weight as much as I can. Trying to find that spot that's angry. Relaxing onto it, breathing onto it. Again, not shying away from the intense area. So I want to seek out that intense area because that's what's tight. That's where the tension is. And release onto it. So I'm sinking as much weight as I can into my thigh right now. Every exhale, relaxing a little more weight into it. You can spend up to, in this spot I would only spend about 2 minutes, so you only want to spend about 2 minutes in one particular spot, 1 or 2 minutes. For the muscle as a whole, maybe 5 minutes. All right, that's enough there. And we're going to finish off with your glutes. So I'd recommend using the ball if you have it, or also would be useful would be a lacrosse ball or the knot out. If you only have the foam roller, you can use the foam roller too. Just know it's not as effective. So I'll turn this up a little more. I'm going to sit directly onto it and start rolling on my glute. Take that off. So rolling directly on my glute from just above my hamstring all the way up to just below my lower back. And I want to get every part if I can. I want to get right inside the glute. I want to get the back of the glute. I also want to get the outer hip. Okay, so I'm going to slightly turn to the outside, see if I can roll on a different area, kind of get the outer hip as well. Again, the whole glute, the whole butt. All right, and then to get a different part of my glute, I'm actually going to cross my right leg over my left leg, form a figure 4 with my legs, and then I'm going to roll around again on the glute again. And that's going to open up a different part of my hip and allow me to get a different part of the glute. It's nice and controlled. Trying to keep my face relaxed. All right, and then let's switch sides. So we're gonna go on to the left hip now. Sitting directly onto it. Again, we're starting just above the hamstring. We're gonna work all the way to the back of the hip. Getting that inside of my butt, the outside, the back, the whole butt cheek. That's what we want to do here. That's all glute. Again, relaxing onto it. And then we're going to start turning toward the outside, working on the outer hip as well. I want to maybe try and get that TFL area, so kind of on the outside of the hip, just below my waist.
Just relaxing onto it, keeping my body relaxed, keeping that leg relaxed. My goal here is to release tension, so don't create more tension. Sink into the tension, breathe deeply into it, and relax your weight down. Might be uncomfortable. That's the goal though. Not all workouts are challenging in the sense that you have to push yourself harder. Some workouts are challenging because you have to relax, because you have to gain dominance over your body and relax into it when your body wants to do the opposite. All right, and then again, we're going to cross that leg over the thigh, so left ankle over the right thigh, crossing the leg, roll around on the hip again, getting a different part of the glute, exposing a different part of the hip. All right, and then you can keep going if you want. If you still feel like you're making progress, keep going. Or if you want, you can stop. All right, so that was the first part. That was part one of the workout. That was part one of the recovery workout. If you're feeling really good and you don't have time for any more, that's fine. You can stop right there. Again, Hyperice, that's what we're used today. You can learn more about those at hyperice.com. This is the Hypersphere, and this is the Hyperice vibrating foam roller 2.0. So now we're gonna do some stretching. So we worked on inner thighs, worked on quadriceps, hip flexors, and glutes. So we're gonna work on those muscles right now. So first thing I'm gonna have you do is go into a wide-legged position. We're gonna work on the inner thighs to start. So I want you to get as wide as you can with your legs, basically just doing a split as much as you can on the ground. Bring your hands behind your hips like you see me doing here, and then lift off the ground and try to sit as far forward as possible. So instead of sitting back, we're gonna kind of sit forward onto the hamstrings. Now you should feel stretching through the inner thighs right away. If you don't, you can work on lifting your chest up and then pushing your chest forward. At the same time, we wanna kind of lift the tops of our thighs toward our abs, toward the abs or kind of toward the ceiling, and that's going to help us get a deeper stretch to the inner thighs. And we're just gonna hang out here for 5 breaths. Make sure you're keeping your chest upright. Deep breaths. Inhaling to lift. Exhaling to sink forward. You can also press the backs of your knees lightly toward the ground, again, while lifting the hips up. So that's going to make this more active as opposed to more of a passive stretch. If you're feeling a great stretch, you've got no back pain, then don't change anything you're doing. Again, if you want to get more intense or make this active, you can also squeeze the tops of your thighs toward the ceiling or press the backs of your knees toward the ground. One more breath. Keep your breathing long, keep your body relaxed. All right, go ahead and come back upright, bring your legs together, and find a wall. We're gonna do a couch stretch. You can also do this on a couch, as the name implies. So you're going to slide your shin all the way up a wall, plant your knee just in front of the wall. Okay, this is step one. So I've got my shin up the wall, my toes are untucked, top of my foot facing the wall. And that's with my left leg. With my right leg, I'm gonna do a lunge. So I'm gonna come forward. And this might be as far as I need to go. So if you're getting a really good stretch here with your foot up the wall and you're in this lunge position here, you don't need to go any further. So we're just gonna stay there. If you want to go more intense, you're gonna bring your hand on top of your right thigh and lift your chest up and start to pull your belly button toward the wall. So this is going to stretch the quadricep and the hip flexor. Make sure your hips are centered. So we want to make sure that you're not putting all the weight into your left knee. So we're still lightly pushing down through the right hip, keeping the hips squared. And then once you pull your belly button toward your lower back, then you can start to lift your chest upright as well. And if you want, you can even lift your arms up and press your back toward the wall And the more you can get your back toward the wall here, the deeper the stretch is going to be for the quadricep and the hip flexor. It might be too tight, so make sure you're not going to the point where it hurts, but you do want to feel a nice stretch there. And we're just going to do 30 more seconds here. Again, full extension is arms all the way up, belly button pulling back toward your spine, spine pressing toward the wall. And if you want, you can also keep your hands down on the thigh and lean forward a little bit more for less intensity. It's about 10 more seconds. Deep breaths. All right, and then go ahead and come forward. Move out of this. Plant your hands. Bring your right knee down. And bring your left leg away from the wall. And then switch sides. So, other side, we're going to slide the right knee toward the wall. Right shin goes up the wall. Step your left foot forward just like you're doing a lunge. Knee over the ankle in the front foot. And then push down lightly through your left foot. Make sure your weight is mostly in the left hip. We don't want to relax the weight into the right knee. And then pull your belly button back toward the wall. Pull your belly button toward your lower back to protect your spine. Make sure you're not overarching your back. And then we want to lift the chest upright and go into the full extension of the couch stretch. So we want to feel a deep stretch through the quadricep and then also through the hip flexor. So we want to pull the chest back, pull your spine toward the wall if you can. If it feels too intense, just stay in that lunge position. That's fine. It's about feeling the right stretch. It's not about what you look like. It's about whether or not you're feeling the proper stretch. So if your hands are on the ground right now and you're in the lunge right here and you're feeling a great stretch in your quadricep and your hip flexors, the whole front of your right thigh, you don't need to go any deeper. If you want to go deeper, if you want a more intense stretch, start to make your body longer from your knee to your ribs. So the more length you can create from your right knee to your right rib cage, the more of a stretch you're going to get. We're going to do about 30 more seconds here. Again, if you want to go even deeper, you can reach your arms overhead and pull your back toward the wall. Make sure you're not overarching your lower back. So the more of a neutral spine you create, so the better core engagement you have, the more drawn in your ribs are, the deeper that stretch will be in your right quadriceps and your hip flexors. If you're arching your back and opening up your chest and splaying your chest open, the stretch won't be as intense. So again, try to draw the ribs in, pull your hips toward the back, and breathe deep. One more deep breath here. Again, you can kind of see me pulling the ribs in. Pulling my belly button toward my back, pulling my back toward the wall. And then go ahead and slowly release. All right, so that one got hip flexors and quadriceps. We're going to finish off with glutes. We're going to do some pigeon. So pigeon, starting at tabletop, bring your right knee toward your right hand, right foot across your body. Externally rotate your hips so the inner thigh faces up, outer thigh faces down. And then crawl your left foot back, lengthening the left leg as much as possible, kind of relaxing the top of your left, or getting the top of your left leg to face the ground so kneecap is straight down. If you need to use a washcloth or something to pad your knee, feel free to put a sweatshirt or a towel or a cloth under your leg to help protect the knee. And my goal here is to relax my right hip toward the ground. So initially, use your hands, kind of press down into your hands to get your hips back and start to shift the weight into your hips. So as you breathe, as you're exhaling, remember you're relaxing deeper into this and you're slowly shifting the weight out of your hands and into your hips. So you'll feel more intensity in your hips as the stretch goes on. And you'll be able to eventually lift your hands up because your hips are, you've got the weight in your hips, you're not relying on your hands for that weight. You can also think pressing your lower back toward your belly button to work deeper into your glutes. You want to avoid rounding your back here, so make sure your lower back isn't poking up. So we're keeping the spine neutral or in extension, so arched. Two more breaths. You're welcome to hold this for up to 2 minutes, maybe even 3, 4, or 5. As long as it doesn't hurt, and as long as you're keeping good core engagement, you're keeping your spine in that neutral position, feel free. All right, and then we're gonna roll out toward the right and switch sides. So back to tabletop, left knee toward your left hand, left foot across the body, crawl your right leg back, get the top of or the outside of your left leg facing the ground as much as possible, the inside of the thigh facing up. Again, so there's that little external rotation to open the hip and get the stretch to the hip. And then crawl your right leg back as much as possible. Make sure there's no tension in the knee, so you want to focus the tension in the hip. We're stretching the hip, not stretching the knee. And then use your hands out in front of you to help center yourself physically, not chakrally, but center yourself so that your hips are facing straight forward, your abs are facing straight forward, and you have even distribution for both hands. Okay, so it shouldn't feel like you have more weight in your left hand or your right hand. You might not have the mobility in your hips yet to be able to center the weight in both hands. As you practice this and as you work on centering the weight, this will get easier with time. And then again, maybe lifting the hands up, allowing the weight to sink all the way into your left hip. Keep your left hip pressing down and back toward the floor. Keep your lower back pressing toward your belly button so that you're keeping the spine in a nice neutral position, not rounding your lower back, and that's actually going to help you get a better stretch through the hip. I'm going to do a couple more breaths here. I've lifted my hands off the ground now so I can put all of the weight in my hips so I can have maximum stretching through my hips. If you do have tension in the knee, you can bring your heel in a little bit closer to your groin. If you want to increase the intensity of the stretch, you can bring your heel further up. So if you're doing the stretch, you're not feeling anything in the hip, bring your heel up higher so that your shin is parallel to the top of the mat. That's going to make this more intense. All right, and then go ahead and roll out. And go ahead and give yourself a pat on the back. You are finished. So again, this was a recovery workout for your hips. We worked on all of the major muscles of your hips, except your hamstrings. We did VMO, vastus medialis, the quadriceps. We did the lateral quadricep, so just under the IT band. We worked on your glutes, the entire butt region. We did the adductors, so those muscles that connect your knees to your groin, and the muscles that are your groin. And so that's a lot of work on your hips. So take the rest of the day off. If it's the morning or if it's the afternoon or if it's evening, you're probably going to take the rest of the night off anyways, and let your body recover. So we just basically jump-started your recovery process. We help facilitate the recovery process. This is when your body gets stronger. So don't squander this opportunity. Don't go straight into a difficult workout after this. Let your body recover. Let your body regenerate the muscle cells. Let your muscles regenerate. And then you can go into a workout tomorrow or 2 days later with more strength and more capability. So this is part of the muscle growth process. You have to do recovery. This is a really comprehensive, great workout, incorporating mobility tools and yoga to help you with your recovery. So I'd make sure you're doing recovery workouts at least 3 times a week. They don't have to be as long as this one in particular. They can be 10, 15, 20 minutes. But just taking that time to work on recovery is really going to help you get stronger. So if you're watching this from the members area, thank you for being part of the Manful Yoga community. If you're watching this from somewhere else, maybe it's on social media, I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to like it, leave a comment, or share it if you found it especially useful. And if you're looking for more workouts or tutorials or full workout programs, that is what I offer in the members area. You can get a 7-day trial for unlimited access. That's just $1 at manfulyoga.com. Again, the tools I was using today are the Hypersphere from Hyperice. That's this vibrating ball that I have, and then also the vibrating foam roller from
from Hyperice. This is the 2.0 version. And I'm a huge fan of the vibrating mobility tools. They just help to get more done in less time, and they actually make mobility a little more enjoyable. It's not quite as painful or quite as uncomfortable when you're using a vibrating tool instead of just the blunt object. So thanks for joining me again. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it useful. If you want to learn more about Manful Yoga, head to manfulyoga.com. Tons of blogs there about how you can use yoga to improve your fitness, to improve your recovery, your performance, and ideas about how to integrate yoga into your fitness routine. So again, thanks for watching. My name is Dean, and I'm going to shut up now. So I'll see you on the next video. Take care.